to businesses, institutions, by building out a platform to make it super simple and easy for businesses to add augmented reality technology to how they communicate with their employees and training, their customers, and of course their vendors. So we are so pleased to have the VR AR Chicago meetups out of 1871 where we are based. And we're pleased you're here tonight. We got some great panelists who are going to share a lot with you, and we hope you have a great evening. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, and obviously we have to thank 1871 for giving us this great space to use. So we really appreciate them, as well as FinTech and the VRAR Association, our parent company. There are also some other people in the room that we want to thank. So there's a board of people that help with these events on. There are a couple of them that you probably have met. We have John over there getting membership. So if you're not a member, I encourage you to go talk to him. He has all the information. There is a discount that you can maybe get if you're nice to him, so talk to him about that. We have Paula in the back who helps set up these events every month. And you probably saw her when you registered or you came in and signed up. So really appreciate you guys for doing that. As John mentioned, there's a great list of panelists that are here today. So there are various folks, and they'll be coming up and giving presentations throughout the day. Well, in the next set, was it 40 minutes? So we're going to thank them. Just a quick eye from each of those folks. If we could have Devin say hello. Just raise your hand. Over there. We have Jennifer. There's two. We have Matt and Neil over here. And then last but not least, we have Jennifer. Right? Oh, Jennifer. Oh, I already called you. Sorry. Danielle. Sorry about that, Danielle. Yep, so the next thing we would like to do, guys, is just get started with some of these presentations that we have for you today. So the first folks up, they're going to talk to you a little bit about architecture and what that means for the VR AR world. We have Matthew Peterman and Eric Redden.
Thanks a lot, Mark. So I'm Matt. We work at Perkinswell, so large architecture firm. What you're seeing on the screen is how we've typically worked in the past, draw stuff, pin it up. We're based all over the globe. Like I said, very large. We have many studios working in lots of market sectors, almost 2,700 staff around the globe. We're purely design, architects, interior designers, urban designers, working in various market sectors, institutional, schools, hospitals, government, interiors, such. Like I said, we're very large. Only one other firm bigger than us. We did receive an innovation award, which some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about leads to things like that. But mainly we're focused in design on sustainability, on resiliency, and really focusing on providing that best product for our client. So it's about the design, even though we're going to talk about utilizing VR and AR to get to that point. So when this started to become a little more mainstream for us, the thought was that it is giving us that final medium that we're looking for to really truly explain what we're trying to do for our clients. It seems like a perfect fit for VR and AR to help assist us to communicate that to clients. And that's the number one thing that we're always trying to achieve. Back to the days of hand sketching, we were always trying to communicate that story of what the design is going to be to a given client for that building. Looking at how we use VR and AR, we kind of broke it down into 4 different areas. There's the internal use of designing, using this, so having our own people look at the things that they're putting together in a new and different way. There's communication, being able to more effectively communicate in a real-time 3-dimensional environment what the client is going to get, so that we're not just relying on a floor plan or an elevation that is in 2D to explain how the space is going to be laid out, or what they're going to see on this wall, or what the front door looks like, or what it might be. We can coordinate better, so getting in there and working with our GC partners and others to make sure that things work together before we start painting stuff to the ceiling, putting the floors in, putting the columns in place, that it all fits in the building. And then finally, using it for marketing and trying to find new clients as a way to engage them in a more modern medium than traditional ways. So, looking across what we've been doing over the past many years, we really have had a huge push to make this available, not just on the large or special projects, but make this a normal workflow that everybody's using across the firm. This has kind of changed our mindset on the hardware that we have for the average person at our firm. We just rolled out another 600 VR-ready laptops a couple months ago. We'll do another 200 in a couple more months. We're really making that the standard now, so that anybody at any point, for internal reasons or external reasons, can utilize VR for the project work. We have dabbled in augmented reality. I think there are some use cases for it, for architecture and design, but really we're on the forefront before there's any physical things in the world to compare it to. You know, we could go out to a dirt field or an empty lot and try to utilize that, but that doesn't happen as often as just using virtual reality to bring portions of the real world into a model and show what we're proposing for the design there. We've also dabbled in putting together our own iOS app for augmented reality. We did this more as a proof of concept to go through the traditional process of, most of the time we used to build a very expensive wood model that we would come and set on a table and everybody would walk around and it'd be really small and have little people and little trees and stuff, and the clients would hopefully understand what we're trying to do with the design from that. We find that the pace at which we design just doesn't allow for that to happen, because it would take 2, 3, 4 weeks to build anything decent as a physical model, whereas we're already building the models virtually. Can we just virtually put them on the table and walk around them in the same fashion?
Working in a closed office environment, this is kind of what it looks like when you're working at your desk. Sometimes the space is a little bit more active than normal, and in this case, not necessarily that dramatic, but that's kind of how our coworkers perceive us when we're playing in VR. It's still kind of a new tool around the office, so we're kind of looked at as innovators and contemporary dancers.
Right. So the initial hurdles were there, both technical and change management, for how people perceive what we're using technology for. Just to move on from that. Nowadays, we have gone through an evolution where, as some of our offices get redesigned, this becomes a standard location in the offices, that there might be a VR lounge as a place to collaborate, come together, and talk through the design, both with goggles on as well as having monitors up. Another place we can bring clients when they're coming in to talk about the design in our office. We're starting to actually move away from this to make it even more ubiquitous, that anybody could have VR anywhere in any office, as we're getting everybody the hardware and the laptops that they need, as well as having more and more the VR headsets themselves. As the price has gone down, we can just get more of them for more people. It's not something that somebody needs all day, every day, but having enough of them around just makes the threshold easier for more people to utilize it. So as we've looked at this over the years, we've kind of lumped a ton of different stuff into VR and AR, and really we think about it the same way we've always thought about visualization, and how do we apply the right tool and the right process at the right time. We don't always need to go full-on modeling with great lighting and great materiality in a expensive VR headset. Sometimes a simple app on an iPhone might work well enough to communicate what you're trying to tell your clients. As far as what we use across the firm, pretty much everything that's in our industry. Like I said, we're large enough that we're not trying to corner anybody into one particular platform right now, and these platforms are evolving so fast that we are utilizing a lot of them across the board.
And the good part, or at least the exciting part about it, is that it's kind of like the Wild West in terms of architecture. So we have uses for Enscape, Twin Motion, Insight, Rivisto, and they all kind of suit our different needs. I mean, we even use Unity to kind of do builds both for AR and VR. So it's a fun time because there's a lot of experimentation and no kind of right way to do anything.
Yep. Ultimately, as it says right in the middle, we're looking for the easy button. We're not a VR firm. We're an architecture firm. We want to do design. We don't want to do VR, but we want to leverage VR for doing design. We've also messed around with other tools. As you can see, some of them sitting over here. Use of iPads, mobile phones. We messed around with HoloLens. Not as much use case yet for us. That's mainly because the threshold to put stuff together to get into it is very high and time consuming, and everything has to align with the speed at which we evolve designs. So the way that we're laying out space on Tuesday might not be the way we're laying out space on Wednesday. And whatever tools we're using have to keep pace with that. Otherwise, when we're going into other platforms and other streams of technical flow, if I'll say it that way, if we're doing it and it's lagging behind, we're going to be showing an old design on one platform, and the pictures are going to be showing a new design on the PowerPoint or whatever way we're displaying them. Other ways we use this, design reviews. We use QR codes a lot because we're just trying to lower the threshold of how you get to information. We'll throw them on traditional floor plans so that people can pull stuff up on their phones in meetings and just look around right on their phone. Fundraising events, we've done these for clients before where we get hired to design something but they don't have all the funds to build the building, so we'll use VR and different ways to help them raise money. Construction document supplements, often even contractor, as we have a busy floor plan like this, with this example is some patient rooms in the ceiling, potentially having QR codes on there so that the construction team can just pull up a 360 image and look at what we intended this room to look like as a finished product. Another example of the same thing, in this case, this was actually done at University of Virginia Hospital, is that what it's called, hospital? DBA, just to help people understand what the final product looks like. When the contractors are on the construction site, most of what we give them still is black and white drawings. And there's a certain language to reading those that everybody in our industry knows, but it still makes it hard to visualize the complete picture, and having these supplements helps them know when maybe something they're thinking isn't the intended final design outcome. VR meetings, a couple different platforms we showed earlier allow us to bring people together in this. I think one great thing about this is just like conference calls, we can bring some of our designers from our San Francisco office into a meeting with some designers in our New York office and not have to pay to fly everybody into one room to pin stuff up on the wall. We built our own app. This helps us showcase some of the better projects that we have in the firm, something that all of our people can carry around in their phone to show any projects at any time. Within this app, we have most every project, actually I think every project has some VR aspect to it where you can walk around. That's why we have these little clip-on goggles over here that allow you to look at it right on your phone in VR. So we call that VR Lite.
Yeah. Now we're going to quickly run through a series of tools we use around the office. This one in particular is called Archeo. It's a beta test app that we're working to develop and apply to some of our projects with a developer, a software developer, and the goal is basically to, at the front end, there's a lot of tools like Matt mentioned, coordination, construction, but there's not a lot of tools at the front end to really capture that like massing and kind of foam modeling design phase of the project. So we're kind of exploring the idea of using these tools along with metrics and data-driven kind of quick readouts where we can do quick studies of buildings programs and, well, at a master planning scale, really work with kind of a pro forma and kind of push our way through it quickly and understand it in a way where the scale is at least somewhat familiar to a designer and doesn't require the disconnect of somebody modeling in Revit, translating a sketch, so on and so forth.
Just kind of trying to streamline workflows so that there's instant feedback of what's going on.
And this particular app, if you're interested in trying it, is at our booth.
Go ahead. Another one that actually just got introduced to last week is called Gravity Sketch. This one is another one where we can take small bits of what we're doing in our modeling environments, bring it in, and start to do the loose sketching right in VR. This actually is used in conjunction with MindDesk, is the workflow that somebody in our Miami office had come up with.
Yeah, and they basically are able to sketch in VR, and then the planes and surfaces and objects are translated into Rhino as they're sketching it. So one of the biggest drawbacks to VR we've experienced is that the BIM process is almost completely ignored, whereas at least in this phase, we start to get closer to being able to translate that VR content directly into a medium that then we can work with later in the documentation process.
On the everyday use, just having designers walk over and being able to get immersed in what they're proposing. It helps everybody, even in our design minds, the way we're thinking. Material sign-off, getting the reality of what materials you want in there. Change management, I guess you can't read that text anymore, but taking it out and getting buy-off. Whereas usually this would take longer if we don't put some of our clients in VR to fully understand what we're proposing to them. Meetings, reports for clash detection, working that through in VR, where we're actually standing around and pointing at what's going on in the ceiling. This is a great space because there's no ceiling, so it's all going to fit, but usually that's not always the case. Technical delivery, maintenance, and helping the facilities understand what's going to be in place and how they can gain access to certain parts of mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems. And then we take it on the road to marketing events.
And really at the end, it's kind of all about the figuring out how to make sure the client's happy, and since they're kind of the conduit in which all these things kind of flow through, creating a relationship and showing them these projects and products in ways that extend beyond 2D images. We're very familiar with renderings and drawings, but the more time that's gone by, the more familiar people are with 3D, the more we realize that they don't really understand it until they're really standing in it in some way. And if you're waiting until the building's almost done, then those are some very expensive RFIs.
So really this is used as our primary value is the client engagement. Can we get people to buy into what we're proposing? Do they feel what we're trying to tell them through this new medium of storytelling, and being able to stand around and discuss the same thing with the same understanding, whereas traditional methods didn't always give us the same understanding, and we didn't find that out until the thing was built and somebody's telling us, I didn't know that was going to be there. I didn't expect that. This usually eliminates those kinds of things. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks guys for that in-depth analysis of architecture and how it works with IR. The next up, we'll have Danielle DeBuccio from Via Technic.
All right, thank you everybody. I'm Danielle DeBuccio, co-founder and CEO of Via Technic. Before I get started, I'd actually like to just give a shout out to two of our real VR pros who are in the room with us, Michael Fontana and June Lee, who are in the back. So they're going to keep me honest if anything I'm saying is not up to par with all of the really cool technology and things that they're doing at our company. The font color changed and you can't read that. But a lot of people ask, who Via Technic is, what is it that we do? So Via Technic is a virtual design and construction consulting and implementation firm. So we work with designers, construction companies, and real estate developers and owners to really elevate their level of technology usage and to make sure that they're getting value. One thing I do want to keep in mind, or have you keep in mind while I give our presentation, is that a lot of times we're companies first touch with this technology. So a lot of companies will come to us because they're hearing about VR and AR in the industry and they want to use it. They want to know what problems it can solve, what it can do for them. And if they don't have a good first experience, they're going to be left with a really bad taste in their mouth and they're going to shy away from it. And that's definitely something that can happen with new technologies. So really try to bring them through this technology journey. VIA Technic, VIA stands for Visualization, Integration, and Automation, and that's sort of that technology journey that we're bringing them through. We use a people, process, and technology approach. So obviously today we're going to be talking a lot about technology, right? But it's really the people and the process that's going to make it important. So when we come in and we implement virtual reality with our clients, we need to understand what are their current processes, what are their current design processes, their construction processes that need to fundamentally change now that virtual reality is introduced. What are those processes that are so embedded and are actually so important to the competitive advantages of our clients that we need to keep them the same? And who are the people? What are their skill sets? Who's a change champion? Who is totally opposed to using this technology and is afraid of putting on the headset? So we need to work with that, right? A couple quick facts about VIA Technic. Since our founding in 2012, we've implemented some sort of AEC technology in over 2,000 projects. So what we're doing is applying learnings across different project types, understanding really boots on the ground, what's really happening, who are the leaders, who's willing to push technology. One really, I think, important thing to keep in mind is that we really try to solve problems. So I'll walk through 4 examples that touch different parts of the design and construction phase to show you how virtual reality solves a problem. Because sort of what I say is, I can probably convince anybody to try virtual reality once. But if I can save them $1 million or win them a project, that's when it starts to stick, when they really feel that value and that problem's really solved. This is just a cross-section of some of our clients so that you can see the diversity of the clients that we work for. A lot of large owners, regional leaders in construction and design as well. So let's get to the fun stuff. Oh, the videos don't play. Maybe I can get your help. If you click, like when I practice, if you click, it usually works. Right, so this first example is a good example of VR during the design phase. So this, if you recognize it, is Chicago's Union Station. And really what we wanted to do, so as I mentioned, we were talking about people's first examples with virtual reality. If it's not a good one, if they feel sick, if they say, hey, real life is better, it's going to turn them away. So what we wanted to do with this was prove to them that we could achieve a high level of realism so that when they were brought into virtual reality, they felt like they were actually in the space and they could make real-time decisions, right? Is this how I want it to look? Is this what it's gonna feel like? Something that you can't see that's actually part of this real-life virtual reality experience is that there's sound. So people are walking around and hearing people talking and hearing the trains just as they would in virtual reality, or in actual reality. Something we actually learned from this example was that this is not what reality looks like because there's no people. So when was the last time you ever walked into Union Station and saw nobody? So now we've been playing around and actually bringing people into virtual reality. A lot of times, if you work with us, you'll see our VIA Tech keeps people from focusing on what's really important. So the previous example I showed you was in a gaming engine called Unreal. This one is in kind of one of those plug and plays like Perkins and Will's easy button type called Fuser. It's one of the ones that's not on this slide actually, so I'm glad I could show you something different. Fuser is really nice if you want to simulate like construction logistics. You can actually build a 4D, 3D model plus time animation and then bring it into virtual reality. So I'm showing it to you right now in avatar mode just because it's easier to show in a video. But we actually did bring our clients into virtual reality. And the reason we did this project was we were engaged as a BIM consultant, but also a scheduling consultant. And there was a lot of problems with getting the team to buy in, specifically on the steel sequence. This was a project, it's a very large hospital project. Overall, this construction schedule was like 50 pages. And so eventually you start to not really understand what's happening. So we created the steel sequence as well as all of the adjacent construction activities in virtual reality and then allowed the superintendents and the field team to actually walk through it. So everything that's happening, you can see it turning orange, that means it's happening on this day in the construction schedule. What was really interesting is we had a team member say, wow, this is so cool, I can look up and see the steel erection. Wait, why can I look up and see steel being erected overhead? That's actually a safety violation. So what we had found was that the steel sequencing had outpaced the slab pours, and there was a problem with their construction schedule, which would have caused actually a major safety incident that nobody was noticing on a traditional CPM schedule. So that right there was a problem solved in virtual reality that was done in a couple of days, because this is one of those like plug and play quick VR options. So speaking of problem solving, something that we're really excited to be playing around with, and this video is going to make you sick, but you can blame June for that. So what we've been really interested, we think that part of the thesis around the value of virtual reality is this idea of data. And a lot of times when we're designing buildings, occupancy data and how people use the space, there's theoretical understanding of what that is, and then there's actual occupancy data. So we said, hey, what if we can simulate that occupancy experience and then take that in earlier to inform a better design? So here's an example of where we've allowed people to walk through a space, and you can actually walk through this one here in our demo. So we walk through the space, and then it creates a heat map of where they're walking to say, hey, you know, in this penthouse suite, is there a flow problem between the kitchen area and the dining area? Or people walk in and always go to the left, which is actually the bedroom, and we want them to come to the right, and that's the living spaces and the family spaces. So it takes data that's not usually available until after construction and sort of simulates it and brings it earlier into design. And we've seen really great examples of how this can be used for wayfinding and things like that. If you've ever been lost in an airport or a parking garage and you said that their signage sucks, that's the type of problem that this can fix. Oh, let's see. Yeah. Okay, the last example is taking actual reality and bringing it into virtual reality for people who are remote. This is playing off of Wi-Fi, so I'm sorry that it's not super great. But what you're seeing here, oh, actually Maria in the back flew to this project in Iowa and did a 360 scan with a high definition 360 camera that we have that's on a robot. So she was controlling that so that people from all remote offices of this project could see what was happening. This project was a really big deal for the company building it because at the time at least it was one of the largest CLT projects in the commercial office space industry nationwide. So this was a really great way to just make a project more tangible and is an example of how we're using other forms of media and bringing that into virtual reality. So I'm just about out of time. With that, I will turn it over to Pepper Construction and Jen.
All right, hello, I'm Jen Seward, Vice President of Technical Services at Pepper Construction. So I basically lead mostly a lot to do with technology with some of our other consulting type business aspects like MEP and structural. So just a little bit about Pepper. We're a large general contractor, so we will manage, do CM work, but we also self-perform work. Sorry, this is really high. So we are based headquartered out of Chicago. We do about $1.25 billion worth of work. Our offices are located in the Midwest, but we have done work across about 42 states. Oh, it says 37 there, but it's now 42. So we'll do work kind of all over the nation, so if our clients take us there. So I lead, as I mentioned, our virtual construction team is one of the legs that I manage. So, and we're kind of focused all over. So I'm gonna, obviously this presentation is gonna be focused on VR and AR, but they're kind of being leveraged right across our entire team. So just to kind of talk through, I want to talk through a few case studies how a contractor is using VR and AR and what value it is and kind of what the differences are, why we're doing that. So, oops. What is going on? Hold on. Okay, so when we in general in construction, when we started this virtual reality journey, it primarily, the first use case was really to kind of replace those physical mock-ups. So often on jobs, we're building physical rooms, bringing our clients there and having them finalize design options, looking at finishes, doing all of that in a physical space. That requires money to physically build it. That requires an area for you to build that, which may or may not exist on a project. Also requires people to travel there. So when we started using VR, it was really to try to replace that with a more virtual experience. And so as a contractor too, you might think, why is an architect not doing that? And why are you doing that as a builder? Well, when we get renderings or we get design intent from our design partners, there's an intent out there, but there's a whole lot of stuff in construction that goes into that space, and you can kind of see it in this video. So this is a project in Chicago where there's exposed ceilings. So if you want those exposed ceilings and those lights, there's conduit that runs to that. And sometimes that doesn't necessarily show up in a rendering from a design partner. And even if it does, that stuff is getting coordinated by a contractor. So we want to make sure that that stuff is being put in an environment where you can see what it's really going to look like. Because the last thing we want to do is go to that space and say, I didn't want that to run in that direction. For example, we have museum clients. I don't want to see a fire alarm. Well, you have to have it in your space. If we do VR, we can determine where those go and actually make the decision of what that placement should be without having to do rework in the field. So just to give you one little metric, we had a project recently that we're just wrapping up where we had budgeted $125,000 for one room, one mock-up. Well, we said with VR, it's just time because we have the resources. We'll spend a couple $1,000s worth of time. We'll do 2 suites, a corridor, 2 bathrooms for a few $1,000s. So they eliminated the physical mock-up and we saved them over $100,000 on that job. That's money that can go back to that client. One other thing, so now that we're starting to add in too is really talking through cost. So what you're not seeing on the screen and kind of the next level we're taking it is also saying, okay, when we change out that piece of material, what does that cost mean? And really having this more animated and having that part of the discussion. Again, we're not playing designer, so we're working with our partners and saying these are the 2 options we want to think about. But we're, as a builder, we want to get this built fast, on budget, and we want to deliver quality that makes our design partners happy and our clients. So that's where bringing VR can really help with that. The next level that we're now taking VR to, that you can see at our booth, and we're set up over there, and you can meet Brian, so I'll give him a shout out on our team who's really helping push this along and taking the lead on this. So one other thing we're doing is we're actually, and today is the first time the public is seeing it, we are changing our safety program now at Pepper. So we're taking virtual reality training for safety. So in the past, we have slideshows, we have videos, we talk about safety in a trailer, we take people who are working in the field, who didn't go to college, doesn't like sitting in a classroom, putting them in a trailer and saying, watch this PowerPoint and learn about safety. Well, it just doesn't work. So what we did is we looked in the market, we said, what's out there? There are vendors that we talked with and we started to try to collaborate with, but it wasn't really fitting our needs as a builder. So we went ahead and Brian did this great effort and did this great work that you can talk to him more about, where we built a custom safety VR solution where now we rolled out to a user group as of this month. We're going to be taking it to our job sites. So now instead of watching a video, they're going to walk a real job site to see a real experience. Because obviously being immersed, studies show, is a little bit better, your body reacts differently. So there'll be voiceovers, there'll be quizzes, and we're just going to continue to evolve, and we're able to keep up with that faster in-house than waiting for the next phase to be developed. So lots and lots of stuff happening there. So as Danielle mentioned, we are also using Fuser. So that last video was Unreal, which is what our high-end gaming engine. What you're seeing on the screen is Fuser. So Fuser, again, to us is kind of that sort of easy button, but we're not using it just because of that. So what you're seeing on the screen, and you can walk this as well, this is the new kangaroo exhibit and penguin exhibit happening at the Cincinnati Zoo that we're under construction. So you can see there's a lot of rock work in it. So in the past, when zoos typically design these exhibits, they have little clay models that are small scale, cost a lot of money. They will model the rock work, they'll have to make some decisions around that piece of rock, that model. then they'll go out in the field and they'll build it. And then they'll change the design because they don't like the way the angle looks, things that you just can't get unless you're at full scale. Well, it'd be impossible to build a physical mock of all of that. So what we said is we presented the zoo and said, hey, we think we can solve your problem using virtual reality. So what you see on the screen is a real model that we use now in our design session. We actually had 2 screens up. So one screen had our, Cost Wisconsin was our partner on this job. They had the screen up with their actual rockwork model. So they were using ZBrush, so we were sculpting. On the other screen, we had what you see up here on the screen. So we were re-sculpting live in the meeting, and we were flip-flopping and going into VR and saying, is this what you want? Is this the final design? Sped up the process. They're very happy with design. We're not having to do rework right now in the field, which is great. And everybody, we actually got to make more decisions than we would have previously because of VR. So now every single project we're doing at Cincinnati Zoo, we're making all final design decisions through VR in a collaborative environment. And the nice thing about Fuser, and you'll see it if you walk through the environment, is we liked it too because sometimes, like Matt said, it's the right tool for the right solution, the right problem we're trying to solve. So basically, what we found with this solution is there was a lot happening outside of this exhibit. There's a hospital in the background, there's houses, there's all these things. But we don't want to sit and spend all this time modeling all that. That could be really tedious. So we were actually able to fly our drone, take that data, and just overlay it in the background. So there, again, we're trying to, what the nice part about Fuser is we were able to blend those things. We can take point clouds and bring them in, we can take mesh models, all of that. So again, it wasn't, there's one solution or one process, but we were able to kind of blend and be the most efficient we could possibly be. So let's talk about AR. So all the time when I'm in a lot of different user groups and with colleagues and friends across the industry, they say, hey, there's no use case for the HoloLens, it's just a toy. Well, I'm gonna prove you wrong on real Pepper jobs. So what you're seeing on the screen is the very first use case we had with the HoloLens that we're still using. We self-perform a lot of concrete work. So what our teams were saying was, days of pours are really, really hectic. There's a lot happening out there. We're flipping through drawings, we're flipping through RFI responses, specs, we're trying to get everything in. So our teams were actually putting on the HoloLens, quickly walking the deck, and inspecting it before they poured that concrete, making sure the embeds in, making sure all the sleeves were in, just really doing that. And they were able to catch things that they either might have missed with traditional methods, or maybe they weren't confident if it was right or not, those kind of things. So we were able to actually catch all of that quickly using the HoloLens. So that was our very, very, very first use case. And we've actually tested a lot of apps, and as you can tell, this one is also the Fuser AR app. So the other one that's probably our most common use case is, as we're doing coordination, you can see a real coordination model up on the screen. We obviously need to go out in the field and do a lot of quality inspections. Maybe make sure they're installed right, make sure they're installed at all. We'll get asked, are they 100% complete? Are they 50% complete? We can actually go out with the HoloLens now. We can take those models that are coordinated and they're installing from, and actually walk the site very quickly to really verify what's happening out in the field. So these are all a few use cases that we're finding really, really helpful. And then the last one, I think there's sound, is the future of what we're doing now. Today we're out in Pepper's equipment facility building the green trailer. We're not building it with traditional methods. Today we use the Microsoft HoloLens. It's a mixed reality headset. We're basically augmenting 3D models on top of reality. In the past, a lot of people have talked about proof of concept and conceptually what this tool can do. But today, we've actually used it on a real project for Pepper Construction. It's actually affecting our productivity and quality in the field. We're using it not only for install of the green trailer, but we're using it for quality control and also as we're inspecting slabs for concrete pours. There's many different use cases, and we're excited to be leveraging this technology throughout many of our projects at Pepper. So that's my final slide, and my time's wrapping up. But that's really where the future's going. Now, I will say, and I'm sure many of you have seen videos, there was a video out there with the drywaller laying out the walls. I said, look, let's see how we can push it, and I want to do it on a real job. That was the first net zero construction trailer ever built. Pepper designed it and built it in-house. We said, well, while we're doing that, let's use the Hollands and see where we can push it. And it's our own job, so let's take that risk and try that out. There are a lot of limitations with the Hollands, so I will not say that we're going to sit and buy thousands of them and roll them out to the field. There's a people aspect. It's already been mentioned about the training and making sure it's easy to use, the reliability, the tolerances. We had to do a lot of work to get those tolerances as tight as we need them for an install. So install is definitely not happening tomorrow on all of our jobs. It's definitely longer down the line. But all the other things I talked about, we're able to do now because we understand the limitations. And while, yes, we wish it could do more, we're able to get value today. So that's just a little bit. We'll be at a booth, so feel free to ask any other questions.
All right, thanks so much, Jen. So a lot of information there, a lot of cool videos that we're seeing. So as we're going through these presentations, we will have a panel. We'll have a break and then we'll have a panel. We have one more presentation to come. But think of some of the questions that you guys are having as these people go through their presentations that you may want to ask them about how they did it, why they did it, how they got that use case, what is the ROI that they're seeing from some of these different things. So just keep that in mind. For our last presentation, we have Devin Rakowski from Gilbane Building.
My name is Devin Rakowski. I'm a media designer at Gilbane Building Company. I've been there for a little over 5 years, so I'm pretty new in the industry. And actually, my background is a little bit different. I came from an art and design school, and actually a lot of our group did too. So I'm learning the construction process. I'm learning architectural drawings on the go. A little bit about Gilbane is that we were established in 1873. We are a worldwide family-owned business, and we have about almost 3,000 employees in offices worldwide. In the Midwest itself, we have one office across the bridge here, and we have one at O'Hare, and then we have a Milwaukee office where the media studio is from. I'll explain my process a little bit for starting the project. So we get the architectural drawings from the client. We'll start in our Autodesk Revit. When I first started Revit, basically if you can trace. Basically, if you can trace over anything, you can model a building. You can trace over walls, doors, windows, and we model a certain way so that we just get the base model. I'm in the marketing and services area, so a lot of the time I am just modeling out the essentials, something that you see just from across the building right now. Some windows, doors, walls, floors, all of the essentials to throw something into for a visual. From there, we move it into Autodesk Maya, and in that process, we render in V-Ray, but we also clean up our mesh, we clean up and organize our geometry to get it ready to export. From there, we use Unreal Game Engine. We've been using this for about 5 years now, and anything in Unreal is possible. We have animation fly-throughs. Once we put a model in there, we can render out animation fly-throughs, real-time material swap options, images, meaning high-quality stills, 360 stills, 5D 4D sequences, iOS apps, safety training, HoloLens, and HoloLens 2 is being released with Unreal right now, architectural visualization, and of course virtual reality that we've all been talking about. Here's an animation that we did in Unreal, and it kind of shows our process of the construction. This one was very complex. We had to keep a running train line and not stop the process and construct a school above it. So how do we explain that without putting a bunch of words together in a Word document? It would be almost impossible without showing this sequence. So this sequence is actually VR compatible too, so we're able to show that in any point in perspective. This is a picture of Mark Pettit. He's the manager of Epic Games, Unreal Game Engine, and he presented this in London. It was pretty cool. Here's another, this is our everyday process. Every day we're showing, from a bird's eye view, we're showing the client what the construction process that Gilbane is proposing, what is better. For this one specifically, it's timber versus concrete and steel frame structure. And we were trying to prove to the client that the timber is much faster, so we went with that option. But that's what we're showing every day, is a bird's eye view of where a fence is going to be, where the laydown are going to be, where the trailers will be, and how we're going into the ground and erecting the building. For a virtual mock-up comparison, the bottom photo is an actual photo after construction was complete, and the top photo is the Unreal Game Engine model. Here's another version that we showed for our Houston employees. They were moving their offices, so what I did on the top version is the game engine render before anything was built, and then afterwards, one of the employees sent me this picture and said it was pretty close to the model itself, so I was able to show the employees in virtual reality where they were going to be sitting, what the new layout of the office was going to be. Here's a animation and a video of a still of twin motion. So we've been dabbling in this. It's really fun. You can have your kids play in it. It's got zero learning curve. Everything is large icons, sliders. You can throw a model in here very quickly. Add some people and pathways for vehicles and people. So it can show a really fast way of wayfinding, which is important for us because sometimes for school renovations, school additions, school teardowns, we'll have to show where students are going in a safe pathway according to keeping them separate from the construction traffic, for example. We also do lots of 3D printing. My coworker Matt he's gone through so many trials and tribulations with this. We usually model something specifically for printing just because some details are way too small to print. But he's been able to throw different functionalities for these, tear off a part of the building, show the floor plan itself, and print out an aerial on the bottom for it to set on. Here's a still image of some AR we've been testing with a 3D print. So we're mixing our media. If we have a print layout on the bottom, it's just one level floor plan of a building. And scan it onto the tablet, and it loads up either phases that he can switch through or animations of the building on AR. This is a still image of a height map of data capture, and actually I did have this example over on our booth, so you can come over and look at it if you want. It is a drone capture of 100 million points of a data capture laser scan from a big site. So typically we have laser scans and mat reports with interiors and exteriors, but at this scale, we threw all these data points into the game engine itself, which is a newer feature of Unreal. So typically in Autodesk Maya, I would get requests to use the laser scans and the mesh, and it just wasn't, it was skewed, it was broken, it would crash Maya. So now we can throw it into this game engine, throw it in the goggles for a very quick and dirty relation of existing with a future building Revit model right next to it. So those are all the types of things that we've been playing with. We just having the background that I am, the art and design background, and applying it to construction itself. Every day is kind of an education, communication path. I'm teaching everybody, even in Gilbane, because Milwaukee, we cater to everybody else in the marketing section, business development managers. We're communicating with the ops team members. We are communicating with them how we can translate a complex construction site into something very simply visual for the client itself. So if you guys have any questions, I have an example of a booth at the end too. Thank you.
All right, thanks Devin for the last one. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break after this. After that, we'll have our panelists come upstairs, up on the stage, and we'll be able to ask some questions and have a little panel discussion. All right, so take 5.
Is it wrong to turn it off? Yeah.